Andy Vollander and Dr. Roberta Skilko, and I'm really thankful for them for helping me through this whole project. So we looked into how damage in the brain white matter pathways are most likely associated with chronic pain. So the full title is Lower fractional anisotropy of white matter pathways in the brain is associated with higher pain ratings in patients with chronic low back pain. So, and I'll talk about everything and go through everything. But so some background is that we looked into patients with chronic low back pain, and it's important to know that it's really common. So in the US, about 30% of adults have chronic low back pain, and about 80% have at some point in their lives reported having chronic low back pain. So it affects a lot of people. We got our data from the Backpack Consortium Biomarkers for Evaluating Spine Treatments, which is shortened to Backpack BEST, and it's a research program that was funded by the NIH, the National Institute of Health. So it took data from 10 sites or 10 locations across the country, and we used data from 9 MGH from Mass General Hospital in Boston, patients from there. So I didn't do this, but the patients were scanned in an MRI, which is a magnetic resonance imaging machine, and they were scanned in their brains for their FA, which stands for fractional anisotropy, the FA in their white matter pathways, and then they were asked for their pain rating. So while they were just before getting scanned, they were asked on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your back pain intensity right now? And then they'd give their response and then get scanned. So in general, chronic pain, it's really hard to alleviate because there's been a lot of approaches to treatments that have been tried, but they're very hard to work because a lot of ages are impacted and there's a lot of different causes and symptoms that are experienced. So it's very complicated to find any treatments. So I thought we'd go into some keywords to explain things. In the top right, you can see an MRI machine. So there's the scanner that they go into. So what's pain? Pain is a sensory and/or emotional feeling involving tissue damage. And it's important to remember that it's processed in the brain first. So we feel pain because it goes through the brain first. And then pain becomes chronic when it's been consistent for at least 3 months. And because you've had this pain for so long, that there's actually been found that there's structural and functional changes in your brain, which is pretty cool. So another keyword is DWI, which stands for diffusion weighted imaging. It's a form of MRI, and it makes it possible to visualize white matter tracks. So I thought I'd include this picture over here on the right, and that's like an image of a brain on a side profile, and you can see all the colors are different pathways, so different white matter pathways. And so DTI is diffusion tensor imaging, and that's a type of DWI, and DTI analysis models the diffusion of water molecules. So that was really important for this study because we were able to see the diffusion of water inside the white matter pathways. So another big word, which was a big point of this research, was FA, which stands for fractional anisotropy. And it's the degree of anisotropy or water diffusion, and it depends on physical barriers like the shape of nerve fibers or the shape of the white matter pathways. So it's really cool because it helped us to show any disruption or any issues with the white matter pathways. FA is measured on a scale of 0 to 1, 0 being the lowest, and it's isotropic, meaning that water movement is in all directions. And the highest is 1, and that's when it's anisotropic, which is unidirectional or movement in one direction. So I included the glasses so you could see at the bottom there. The glass with no straw, that's isotropic because water movement is in all directions. So it's really easy to just spread out and go in any way. But then the one with the straw is anisotropic. So you can imagine the straw is like a white matter pathway, and the actual straw is like the fatty membrane, which is called the myelin sheath. And that keeps all the water inside. And if it's strong, then none of the water will be able to escape through that membrane. And you can see on the far right also another way to see it. High FA, so everything's in one direction, and low FA, it's in all different directions. So white matter tracks are connected throughout the brain and carry different information. So that's why it's really important and helpful that FA can show us these white matter tracks and show us like how strong and how everything's doing in the brain. So here's some data tables. The one on the top is really confusing, but basically it's just showing these correlations that we made between all of the white matter tracks. So that's what we started with. And then we used a Pearson correlation analysis, and the letter P was measuring the significance. So we set that to less than 0.05. So anything that came out with less than 0.05, we knew that that meant that that tract was significant. And we found that there are 4 significant pathways: the left inferior cerebellar peduncle, the left superior cerebellar peduncle, the right superior cerebellar peduncle, and the right anterior limb of the internal capsule. So in the bottom table, you can see that there's the correlation between those 4 pathways and also the pain ratings. So from those, how I mentioned earlier, we took data from 9 patients. So you can see on the left, those were their pain ratings that they gave, 0 to 8. And then all the numbers are their FA values for those pathways. So something important to notice is that with the pain rating of 0, the lowest pain rating, it has the highest FAs, 0.6, 0.7, almost 0.8. And then for the highest pain rating of 8, we had FAs of about 0.6, so lower. So here's the results. You can see the top part is showing the inferior cerebellar peduncle. And so this was one patient's brain, and the arrows point to that pathway in the brain. So my mentor, Liz, she helped me understand it by saying that like the pathways are like highways, and then the gray matter part is like the cities. So the white matter pathways are traveling and bringing information to those gray matter areas. So you can see in the images, the arrows are pointing to those pathways. So the blue part is the inferior cerebellar peduncle at the top. And also notice that in the graphs, they're all negative slopes. So that means that the higher the pain rating, the lower the FA, and the lower the pain rating, the higher the FA. And this is the other 2 pathways, and it shows the exact same thing, the negative correlation, and it's the left and the right superior cerebellar peduncle, so you can see it on both sides. So the conclusion, DTI, diffusion tensor imaging, made it possible for the analysis of FA, fractional anisotropy, of the white matter tracts in the brain. We used the Pearson correlation analysis that allowed us to compare FA and pain ratings to find the significant pathways. And then with those pathways, we were able to make graphs with them, and we saw that there was a negative correlation, which meant that there was a higher pain rating and a lower FA. And remember that FA shows the directionality, and because of that, the integrity of the white matter pathways. So with a low FA, the water diffusion can escape past the boundaries, and it's not as strong and potentially has been damaged. And so it's related to pain because those 4 white matter tracks connect to gray matter regions, which are associated with pain management. So they're like the spinal cord, the cerebellum, and the thalamus. Those are all areas that are related to pain management, and those are areas that those pathways connect to. So they have an important role in pain processing, which means that pain and FA are likely directly correlated, and chronic pain can damage white matter pathways. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to the Talaria program and to my mentors. It was a really great experience.